65, The Fast and the Furious, Tokyo Drift.
Nice ride.
Does the job.
What job? Delivering pizzas?
It's not the ride. It's the rider.
Right, it's the first time we're doing a bottle open over Zoom. So let's see how this goes.
All right.
Spit over it. There you go.
There we go.
Well done.
Cheers.
Clink.
Clink.
Well, hello and welcome to episode 65 of Two Geeks, Two Beers with me, Tom, and my fellow drifter through time and space, Morgan.
Hello.
Yeah, we really are back already, as we're all stuck at home, not much to do, I guess. We thought, let's make the most of this bizarre period. Try and make a few more episodes if we can, I guess. Let's just see how long that lasts. Make sure to check out our last episode if you haven't already. It was a special interview episode with Red Dwarf's Doug and Richard Naylor, which was a lot of fun to record indeed. This time out, we're tackling a film that on first glance is a bit naff on paper. It's the 2006, underrated in my opinion, Fast and Furious, Tokyo Drift.
Not to be confused with the 1966 Japanese film Tokyo Drifter, which also features Yakuza, but noticeably fewer sick rims.
I did not know that existed, even with all my research, so I'm glad you knew that. So we were going to do this around now because we were expecting to see Fast 9 in a few weeks. Obviously that hasn't happened and isn't going to happen until, when is it now? Like May 2021?
It's something like that. It's tough. So
we've both individually watched this recently. Thoughts? Just early thoughts on the film?
I think it's definitely not the weakest Fast and Furious outing. I'd say that dubious honour belongs either to Too Fast, Too Furious, or if you are taking spin-offs into account, I would controversially say perhaps now Hobbs and Shaw. But I would argue it is still the black sheep of the Fast family. I think it's often considered the least essential entry, partly because, at least at the time, when it was released in 2006, it was sort of made and marketed as a standalone film with minimal ties to the previous Fast and Furious movies, at least in terms of like story and character.
Yeah, I agree. Very good. Well, should we start with beers?
Good.
Beers. So you just got a regular beverage because it's what you had in the fridge, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
I, by complete fluke, had a Japanese beer in my fridge.
Wow. I mean, before we started recording, you were drinking John Smith's, which
I've got that on the go as well. But this has been in the fridge for a while, so it's just an Asahi. It's it's the classic Japanese beer that you get in various places. But I only have it because ages ago, a few months ago, me and my girlfriend were having a Chinese takeaway. That's a Chinese takeaway, not a Japanese takeaway. And we ordered it online. And then you're meant to get like an email or something to confirm it's all gone through and everything fine.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. So we phoned up, couldn't get through. So we're like, okay, well, let's just go there. So she went there. Just to...
Wait, you went to the restaurant?
I know. So after it's only around the corner. We're being late,
right?
But so she went there to see what was going on, and then it turned out that they were just too busy and they couldn't do it. But they're so shoddy, they didn't bother telling us. But they felt really bad, even though they couldn't really speak much English at all, or many English, like I just said.
They cannot speak many English at all.
And then they just, even though. She just kept saying, I don't want it. Just gave her loads of beers, loads of like random beers, just to apologise because they were so embarrassed. And so we were stuck with these random beers, and one of them was a Japanese beverage, which I have here. So I've kept my fridge for about 3 or 4 months for this. Another
tale of woe from the pantheon of Tom Eames.
I know. It's always struggled getting beers, but there you go. Got there in the end. So, as I said, we both rewatched this in the past week or so, and like you say, I have to say it's much better than I remembered. I mean, it's not Citizen Kane, but I would rather watch this than Citizen Kane, I have to say.
Yeah.
But it's such an improvement on Too Fast, Too Furious. Like, Too Fast, Too Furious is a lot of fun if you like the Fast and Furious films, but
this is it.
dreadful. Whereas Tokyo Drift is like a level above in quality in terms of like story and plot and the way it's filmed.
So I spent my Easter weekend watching those two films back to back. I watched. This is how I spend my time in lockdown. On the Easter Saturday, I watched Too Fast, Too Furious, and on Easter Sunday, I watched Tokyo Drift. And
wow. That's the hard bit. That's the hard. When you're doing a marathon of Fast and Furious movies, that's the tough bit.
That's the hump, isn't it? That's the hump to get over. And Too Fast, it's, do you know what? It's not as bad as I remember. It is a lot of fun. Tokyo Drift, maybe not as much fun, but it's a bit more. It's a bit more of a cohesive beast. It holds together better.
Exactly. Yeah. So a bold move, obviously not bringing Vin Diesel or Paul Walker back, and it almost killed the entire franchise. Let's be honest.
A bold and it turns out stupid move.
But we'll get on to reasons behind that and other things to do with that. But at the time, would you have ever thought that the franchise would have become what it did when this came out?
It felt like the death knell for the franchise.
Yeah.
When you have a third. Well, I suppose it was the second sequel, but the third film in the franchise, and all the original cast are gone. It just feels like a cash in, right?
Yeah.
You would never have expected that years later it would become this action movie phenomenon.
No. Well, I cruelly at the time just wrote this off as a load of nonsense. This film, and it wasn't until like it was. I think I've probably said this before, but like it wasn't until Fast and Furious 6 came out that I actually went to the cinema to see it again. I watched the first one at the cinema, but like, yeah, I still thought that the Fast and Furious franchise was a joke until I went to see 6, and then I went back and watched the rest.
Whereas I was obsessed with the first one. It was like the first DVD I ever bought. And so I was super hyped for the fourth one, Fast and Furious, no definite article, because because it was Vin and Paul reunited, which we'll get onto later. But I don't think I saw Tokyo Drift like you till way later, because at the time I couldn't be bothered with it. I dismissed it as I say, an unessential entry.
It felt like American Pie band camp, didn't it? It did.
Exactly. Yeah, it's very much the American Pie band camp of the Fast franchise,
but not anymore. Which we'll get onto.
No,
why it is important to watch. So let's go through the plot and everything else first, I guess. So in 2006, directed by Justin Lin, written by Chris Morgan. So this is the first time that the boys Morgan and Lin came on board, and it sort of steered the Fast and Furious franchise into a different direction. Still not quite what it would become, but this was the first time that these two were on board, and
the start of phase 2.
Yeah, exactly. And Morgan has essentially, well, Chris Morgan, not me, has been involved with pretty much all of them since then, hasn't he?
He's not involved with the upcoming Fast 9, but
he even did
3 through 8 and Hobbs and Shaw.
And Justin Lin has directed most of them, not all of them, but he's coming back for 9, I think. So so this is when it had a change. So it follows high school car enthusiast Sean Boswell, played by Lucas Black, who was sent to live in Tokyo with his father and find solace in the city's drifting community. Solace. So Lin was hired as a director due to his work in, we'll get onto this, Better Luck, 2002 movie. Unable to secure the returns of any of the series' initial cast members, plans were made by older developers to have a new take on it. So they thought, let's make this a one-off distinct entry in the franchise.
When you say unable to secure the involvement of any, did they try Leon? We even went to Vince. Vince wasn't up for it.
Even he wasn't up for it. It says here, let's focus on a car subgenre, aka drifting, incorporate a location outside the US, and establish new characters. So I will say this now. Again, we'll get onto it, but this needs to be said now. The chronological timeline of the franchise, it later shifted. So all future installments up until 2015's Furious 7 were set between Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift.
For reasons that will become apparent, right? But I mean, I'm sure you'll get onto this, but the chronologically, the chronology, there we go, of the Fast and Furious franchise makes no sense. Because either Tokyo Drift is set roughly when Furious 7 came out, which is 2015. Or it's set in 2006, and then all the films that followed are set pre-2006. But then if Tokyo Drift is set in 2015, why do they all have flip phones and iPods?
Well, this is it. So, although this was made and clearly filmed in 2006, it is technically set around the mid-2010s, because according to the official Fast and Furious Wikia, it is set in 2014. So,
and they were just going through like a retro tech phase.
Yeah, that is my way of looking at it. I reckon because it's Japan and they're a bit funky, they just went, right, this particular suburb of Japan, they're just really into their retro nostalgia of the mid-noughties for some reason. That was just
right. They're just really into drifting and iPods.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because they really love their iPods in this film. So let's go for the cast. We love a good cast roundup, don't we? So Lucas Black plays Sean Boswell, a young man interested in street racing and the protagonist of the film. So
you say a young man. Lucas Black is a 24-year-old.
He's 24,
playing a 17-year-old with the hairline of a 40-year-old.
He is. He kept his Alabama twang in this film. At this point, he was best known for his roles in American Gothic, Crazy in Alabama, Friday Night Lights, Jarhead, and then in 2014 he joined the cast of NCIS New Orleans, playing Christopher until the sixth season. So did he do anything between Tokyo Drift and NCIS?
Well, when did he appear in those shockingly high quality movies?
They were all pre-Tokyo Drift, those films.
Cold Mountain?
That was before 2006, yeah.
Wow. So Tokyo Drift killed Lucas Black's promising career.
Much. But he came back in NCIS, and he is coming back in Fast and Furious 9, which is very exciting. We don't know how much for, but he is in the trailers. Looking forward to it.
Well, he made a cameo in Furious 7.
He did, mate. We'll get onto that, obviously. But,
which occurs at the same time as Tokyo Drift, despite being filmed like 9 years later. We'll get onto it. Yeah, but no one is excited about Sean Boswell coming back as me and Tom. I think possibly not even Lucas Black himself.
No, you will have heard this, which you definitely won't, if you listen to our Patreon episode about the Fast 9 trailer, but we said how we're just nerdly obsessed with Sean Boswell, and how when we watched the trailer, we were really excited about the new trailer, but we were really disappointed that Boswell wasn't in it. And it was
it's got John Cena, sure, but where is Lucas Black? That's all we want.
The next day, I watched it again, and I messaged you because I was like,
immediately,
oh my god! And I did a screenshot because I saw Boswell was in it. I was like, oh no, he's there. So that was really exciting. So he's coming back. Next up, Sung Kang as Han Lu, the Drift King, who we'll go on to in a minute, his business partner and old friend, it's later established, of Dominic Toretto, who befriends Sean and teaches him how to drift. Before Tokyo Drift, Sung Kang hadn't really done much. He did appear in 2002's Better Luck Tomorrow, which was directed by Justin Lin, as a character named Han Lu. And it says on Wikipedia, at least, Kang later reprised his role as Han Lu in the Fast and Furious series of films from 2006 onwards. Better Luck Tomorrow was subsequently recognised as Han's origin story, retroactively making the film a part of the Fast and Furious continuity, although not officially an instalment of the franchise.
And it was also, I believe, part of the Gods of Gamblers franchise.
Was, yeah.
No, not really. But no, the Fast and Furious franchise is so complicated. Not only have we got this really unnecessarily complicated timeline, but you also have unofficial spin-off movies.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's canon, to be honest. Better Luck Tomorrow, but who knows? I've never really seen it. I should watch it. Really.
I've not seen it.
Yeah. Did you know that Sung Kang was also in an episode of The Shield? You know that?
I did. Yeah.
Your favourite TV show?
My favourite TV show of all time. Of course I know. It's Fast and Furious crossing over with The Shield.
The Shield.
How would I not know that fact?
Next up, Bow Wow as Twinkie, Sean's first friend that he meets in Tokyo, who sells various consumer goods and introduces Sean to drift racing. So apparently Bow Wow is also returning to Fast 9. I don't know if I believe that yet. I don't know if that's one of those things where people have just said that and it's not actually the case. But it's true.
I believe Mr. Wow himself did confirm it recently. Yeah. So he was Lil Bow Wow.
Yeah.
And then he's just Bow Wow. I don't know. Yeah. Is he now like old Bow Wow?
Yeah. Well, yeah, he's had a tough
old dirty Bow Wow.
Because he in 2016 he announced that he was retiring from rapping, or at least one more album, which was initially scheduled for release in 2017. However, it has not come out. It's not materialised yet.
It's not come out at all. I mean, let's be honest. We're all pretty surprised that Bow Wow was active up until 2016.
And it was probably not helped by the fact in 2017, I don't know if you remember this. There was a new photo challenge that went viral over social media called the Bow Wow Challenge.
I definitely don't remember this.
So it started because he posted like photos which supposedly showed his private jet lifestyle, his amazing life.
Sorry, I really wondered. I did not think you were going to say photos of his private jet. Then I thought you were going to say
jet. Yeah.
Private.
However, the photos turned out to be very much fake and just came from stock photography.
Oh no!
And people found out and found the real photos. So yeah, I think he needs a bit of a break. So let's hope Mr. Wow returns.
Oh, wow. Yippee yo, yippee yay.
Next up, Brian T. as Takashi, Sean's enemy, who is acknowledged as the best drift racer and given the title Drift King or simply DK.
DK.
Do you know much about Brian T?
I know nothing about Brian T, apart from that he plays DK in Tokyo Drift, so please spill the tea.
No, bigger star than I thought. He's best known for playing Dr. Ethan Choi in Chicago Med and all of its spin-offs, so he does well for himself. He has also popped up in The Wolverine, Mortal Kombat Legacy, Jurassic World, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows. So he's doing all right. Natalie Kelly plays Neela, Takashi's girlfriend, who later has a thing for Sean. Not much to say about her, otherwise that she's been in other TV shows such as Body of Proof, Unreal, Vampire Diaries, and Dynasty. So, she's kept busy all these years.
A female character in the Fast and Furious franchise. Unfortunately, not much to say about her.
It's just always the way it is, isn't it?
It's the way of things. Michelle Rodriguez has something to say about
that. She does. Maybe she'll come back in that Fast and Furious female spin-off that's apparently happening. Sonny Chiba as Kamata.
I didn't realise it was Sonny Chiba. He's like a film legend.
Yeah, well, he plays Takashi's uncle, and he's head of the Yakuza, so he's essentially the head of this, Japanese mafia in the film.
Yeah.
He's a very famous Japanese actor, singer, film producer, film director, and martial artist. Western audiences probably know him best the fact that Christian Slater's character Clarence in True Romance is a fan of him, and is in a pivotal early scene. He watches a Sonny Chiba triple feature. But also, Quentin Tarantino, the writer of True Romance, worked with him 10 years later in Kill Bill. So
Hattori Hanzo.
That's the one. So, yeah, big star. Didn't realise he was in it. Leonardo Nam plays Morimoto, who's Takashi's close friend and right-hand man. I'm only mentioning him because he now plays Felix Lutz in Westworld, but I don't watch Westworld, so it could be a really big character, for all I know, but I thought I'd mention it just in case he is. Brian Goodman plays Major Boswell, Sean's father. Now, the whole way through, I was like, I know him. What's he been in, other than this, obviously? And this isn't that interesting, but he played a character called Ryan Price in Lost. He was one of the others, so he was in it for 3 or 4 episodes. So I was like, that's where I know him from. Zachary Ty Bryan plays
of Home Improvement fame.
Yes, I had to mention him. So again, I was watching it the other day. I was like, "Who's that? I know that.
Who's that?"
And yeah, he played Brad in Home Improvement.
And Zachary Ty Bryan, sort of looks like his skull grew faster than in the rest of his face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And finally, Jason Tobin, just thought I'd mention him. He plays Earl who's one of Han's friends. Doesn't really do much in this film, but he's one of the crew. But he's returning to Fast 9, which is really interesting. He's in the trailer with Boswell. It's like what? I guess maybe in the franchise, it's only been 4 or 5 years, but in that time frame, Boswell and Earl just became really close, really tight.
And they've become really close, really tight, and they've just had a really challenging few years that have seen them age about 12 years.
No offense to Jason, but he's aged a lot in the last 15 years. Anyway, I also just wanted to mention, sometimes in the credits there are some funny names of characters and stuff.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift has some crackers. Again, my girlfriend pointed this out when we were watching it the other day, and it just made me laugh out loud, so I had to mention it. So, first one, an actor called Christian Salazar plays a character called Chubby Hispanic Kid. Imagine if you went to a call out for that, and
imagine if you're like, okay, so you're Chubby Hispanic Kid. No, it just says on the script you're a Hispanic kid. Nah, it's Chubby Hispanic Kid.
I know.
It's like
And the best one, Satoshi Tsumabuki, I think it's pronounced. Apologies if that's not the case. He plays a character called Exceedingly Handsome Guy.
Now that he's like, so I'm here for the role of Exceedingly Handsome Guy. Yeah. No, you're in the wrong room. No, you're here
Chubby Hispanic Kid.
You're Chubby Hispanic Kid. You're like, no, but I I thought I was up for. I thought I was up for. I've got the range. I thought I was up for exceedingly handsome man. Nah, chubby Hispanic kid.
But it turns out Satoshi is actually a really big star in Japan as well, and I think it was like a cameo. It was like if David Beckham did a role. He's the one, when they do the first race in the car park, and there's a guy in the suit who does the 1, 2, 3, go. It's that guy, so that makes sense. So let's start where we always start on these things with the trailer.
This is where we start. Everything that's all this. This has all just been preamble.
Ready. Set up.
Go.
It's called drifting.
What do you mean, drift?
The cars are lighter. The tires are slicked. When you drift, if you ain't out of control, you ain't in control. Still need a dictionary?
On the other side of the world, on the wrong side of the law, a new style of racing rules the Tokyo underground.
How you guys get away with this?
And all the best drivers want in.
Who's a tourist?
Let's see what the kids got.
Then let's race.
But when you live on the edge, anything can happen.
You came to the wrong place.
Now, in a place where life moves this fast,
That's a lot of money.
Hey, you're moving up in the world. You gotta elevate your company.
the bigger the risk, the greater the rush.
Stay away from them.
All my life, people have told me I don't fit in. Maybe I've just been in the wrong place.
Hey, look, watch out! Woo! Almost over now.
Life's simple. Make choices. Don't look back.
The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift.
But you don't have to ever quit. I'm gonna take it no more, since it's almost over now. Almost over now.
There you go. I forgot it's actually called The Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Not Fast.
I know. It's like, okay, you're wasting time. The Fast and the Furious.
I also should point out that forever, whenever we talk about this film in real life, as it were, we always use the line, I can do the drift. And he never says that in the film.
No, that's based entirely on when I did first see this film. And I was talking to some friends about it, and I was like, yeah, that lead guy, he's all like, I can do the drift. And they're like, that is exactly what he sounds like. So now it's like a line that sums up the Sean Boswell character, even though he never actually says it. It's like the beam me up Scotty of Tokyo Drift.
So let's go through the plot, shall we? So in Arizona, high school students Sean Boswell and Clay race their cars to win the affections of Clay's girlfriend Cindy, who I don't know how the actress's name, but she's also in the OC.
She was in the OC.
And essentially, he crashes his car, and he does this sort of shit all the time. It's like for some reason he's always gets in cars and causes crashes. So they were like, right, literally.
But he's actually a good driver. He's a really good driver. He's a good driver,
but he crashed because the other jock guy, this is the guy from Home Improvement, he just crashed into on purpose because he was losing. But because he's a repeated offender of street racing, he is sent to live in Tokyo with his father, a US Navy officer stationed there, in order to avoid juvenile detention, juvie, or jail. But it's a bit degrading because the whole thing was he did a race with Brad, and they were like, whoever wins gets the girl, and she was well up for it. And it was definitely can get away with it.
I couldn't decide how I felt about that because she was very much, it was very much her suggestion. So she's got agency. Yeah. But then I was watching it with my girlfriend, and she was like, "Ugh, this is gross." So.
Yeah. So while in Tokyo, Sean instantly befriends Twinkie, a military brat. Have you ever heard of the phrase military brat?
I heard it a lot in this movie.
Yeah, so it turns out that means the child of a serving or retired military personnel. Didn't know that.
Educational, this podcast.
Yeah, but so Sean goes to lunch, meets Twinkie, sits down, and within 5 minutes knows all about the world of drift racing and they're just part of the game.
There's a moment later on in the film where Sean's like, I don't know how to drift, and then Han's like, you just need to feel it. And then he just and then there's like a montage, and then he's instantly like the best drifter of all time. Yeah. He's not just can he drift, he can take on DK, the drift king. He is then the best at drifting because he just sort of like He just felt it, man.
Name's Twinkie. Hey, I noticed you ain't have a laptop.
Yeah?
I'll hook you up. Half price.
No, I'm cool.
60% off. Since we're both Army brats and everything.
I ain't got no cash, man. And I ain't an Army brat.
All right. Well, what about a cell phone, huh? Everybody needs a cell phone.
No offense, but I'm probably not gonna be here long enough to remember your name. You selling a Sparko steering wheel?
Hell no. That's mine right there. And I even paid retail for it.
What you drive?
On my ride?
Yeah.
Yeah, my ride's one of a kind.
Show me.
Thought you weren't sticking around.
So while there, by the way, this is the first night that Sean lands in Tokyo, by the way. Sean has a confrontation with Takashi, the Drift King, over Sean talking to his girlfriend, Neela. Though barred from driving, Sean decides to race against Takashi anyway, who has ties to the mafia.
Hi.
He was just leaving.
I'm sorry. I don't speak Japanese.
Understand that? Gaijin?
Takashi,
We were just talking.
this isn't your scene.
That word you call me. Gaijin or something or other. What does that mean exactly?
Means turn around. Keep walking.
That's exactly what we're gonna do. Come on, man, let's rock. Hey, yo, look, man, it's Yakuza.
Now see, and that's funny, because I thought this was like a free country where a girl could talk to whoever she wants.
You know who I am, boy?
Yeah. You like the Justin Timberlake of Japan, right?
気にしないで。関係ないから。ね? Leave.
Damn, man. You know Yakuza, the mafia. Look, sorry, DK-san. Monkey didn't have his banana today.
Hey, D, let's go. It's time to race.
Good luck, Timberlake.
You're the one that's lucky. 'Cause I'm about to race.
Then let's race.
With what, huh? Your skateboard? Easy to sound cocky when you got no ride. Take mine. Let's race.
He borrows a Nissan Silvia. I'm going to sound right. So I know nothing about cars, but I'm going to read out what it is. A Nissan.
It's actually is it called a Nissan Silvia?
That's what it says.
It's like a Nissan Doris.
A Nissan Silvia S15 Spec S. That's what it's called. For you car fans.
All you gearheads out there.
He borrows that from Han, but loses his first race and totals the car entirely due to his inability to drift. Because they do it in like a car park. You know, I've avoided driving in these car parks anyway, let alone speeding on it. You know, like when you got to go up a level and it goes it's like really tight corners. I've never done it on purpose. Just don't want to do it ever. So he crashes.
You'd be the worst in a Fast and Furious movie. Like,
I know.
It's a tight corner.
He's so slow.
I'm not driving fast, let alone drifting.
Let alone furious.
I don't want to go fast, let alone furious.
So he now owes Han, this guy that he's just met and borrowed a car from because he's totally crashed it. Again, bear in mind, this is Sean's first day there. To repay his debt for the car he destroyed, Sean agrees to work for Han. This leads to the duo becoming mates and Han agreeing to teach Sean how to drift. Now, we'll mention Han now because obviously when they made this, they didn't know what they were doing. And Han is a particular sort of person. And in this film, he's like seen with loads of women. He's got his arms around like two women and he's being a right flirt.
There's a scene which is in the trailer where Han uses his drifting skills to pick up some ladies' numbers. He basically drifts around them several times in rotation.
And it works. They work.
Do you know what? It does the trick for Han. He gets the number.
But bear in mind that when they retroactively made this part of the franchise and put it in a different timeline, Han only moved to Tokyo to get over the death of his beloved would-be wife, Giselle, played by Gal Gadot, because they've been planning to go to Tokyo for years, and he was like, oh my God, I can't believe she died. And in the entirety of those films, he's like quite suave and pleasant. He's not like a ladies' man. He's just, he's just a nice guy. And then it cuts to him in Tokyo, and he's now like loving it up with all these women, and it's like that's a bit of a
yeah. Well, but also it's taken years off him as well. He looks quite a bit younger, which is weird. Our theory is that he is actually just sort of drowning his grief in booze and women. So he's putting on a front to get over the loss of Giselle. That's how we've retconned some poor plotting. And also, if you think about it, there are moments where he's like, I'm the cowboy. I've gone over the border to Mexico. This is my Mexico. Like there's a little bit of melancholy to Han in this movie.
I do just wonder if they should do a George Lucas style edit of this film. For things
where they CG out all the women that are flocking around Han.
But also things like when they've got the flip phones, like just CG iPhones and stuff like that, just to make it make more sense in the.
So like E.T., where they replace the guns with mobile phones, except here you just replace the mobile phones with newer mobile phones,
better mobile phones. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And
because I know nothing about cars. The cars all look still quite new to me. They don't look dated too much, but it's just when they've got technology and it just looks silly.
No, they should do Tokyo Drift Special Edition where she drifted first. It wasn't on Han.
Yeah, so Han agrees to teach Sean how to drift. He also learns him. This one is called.
he learns him.
He loans him a Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution.
Because you said he teaches him how to drift. He learns him good.
No, I just sounded posh there for some reason. He explains to Sean that he is helping as he is the only person willing to stand up to Takashi. Again, bear in mind, we're now only like 2 or 3 days since Sean moved to Tokyo.
It's been eventful.
Sean moves in with Han and soon masters drifting, as you say, gaining some clout after defeating DK's right-hand man, Morimoto.
Sean... And Morimoto is fucking furious.
Yeah, he's so furious. Yeah,
he was fast, and then he's furious. He
no
screams
fast,
for like 5 minutes solid. He's like, rah! It goes crazy.
Sean soon asks Neela out on a date and learns that I don't give you the backstory of Neela, do I? In this episode,
I don't think the screenwriters did, so I don't think you need to.
Essentially, Takashi is not happy with it and beats Sean up, and Neela leaves him to move in with Sean and Han. And now, again, bear in mind, we're now only about 4 days since Sean moved here, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
I mean, they did have the montage bit, so maybe it's a couple of weeks max, but it's not that long. But it did lead to, and you sort of alluded to it, a very special scene. I'd say one of the most moving scenes in Fast and Furious history, with Han and Sean. So let's watch that now, shall we?
So how'd you end up over here anyway?
Well, you know those old westerns? The cowboys make a run for the border? This is my Mexico.
Why did you let me race with your car? You knew I was gonna wreck it.
Why not?
Because it's a lot of money.
I have money. It's trust and character I need around me. Who you choose to be around you, let you know who you are. One car in exchange for knowing what a man's made of. That's a price I can live with. Look at all those people down there. They follow the rules for what? They're letting fear lead them.
What happens if they don't?
Life's simple. You make choices and you don't look back.
So if you don't drift to win, what do you drift for?
You really want to know?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
If you don't drift to win, what do you drift for? Yeah, I presume at the time, Han's demons, he was meant to be on the run from whatever happened in Better Luck Tomorrow, but retroactively, you can consider it that he is mourning Gal Gadot, and it follows on from the events of the previous, but by which I mean later Fast and Furious movies.
Exactly. So in the end, Takashi's uncle, Kamata, the head of the mob, isn't happy because Han stole money off him, and there's a big chase. During the chase,
even you sound bored.
Well, I wrote down loads of stuff. I don't need to read off all that. What we're doing?
No.
So essentially, Morimoto, Takashi's right-hand man, is killed in the crash. Takashi chases the others, but then in the middle of the crash, Han's car is T-boned by a random car and dies when the car explodes. And then Takashi, Sean, and his father suddenly become involved in this like armed standoff all of a sudden. And
I was going to say, in this, I love this moment where Sean's dad is involved in the armed standoff, where Sean's dad's like, "What have you got involved with?" And he's like, I'm going to send you away. And he's like, "It's my mess. I got to fix this." And Sean's dad is so impressed with his son's newfound sense of responsibility that he's not like, "No, I won't do the sensible thing and send you away. I will let you stay here and face the Yakuza and also take my car."
Yeah, again, bear in mind, we're now probably about 5 or 6 days since Sean moved here, and his dad must be thinking, what the fuck? I mean, in 5 days, you got me in a gunfight with the son of the head of the mafia, and you've killed 2 people? What's that about? 2 people have died.
Take my car. Leave.
Yeah. Sean proposes to the mafia that he has a race with Takashi, but on the condition that the race, whoever loses has to leave town. And for some reason, Kamata goes, "Yep, that's fine, but only if we do it on a mountain." So, okay, fine. Strange rules, but there you go. So now he's making deals with the mafia after about 5 or 6 days, and why not? Sean's dad gives him an old Ford Mustang that he's been working on, and they fix that up in the space of what seems like a day somehow. And that night on the mountain, crowds gather to see the race. Again, this is 2006 when they made this, so I don't feel like streaming or 4G or anything like that existed back then. But somehow they were able to, everyone was able to use their flip phones to do some sort of weird mirror type situation where they were all watching it live on their tiny little screens. But there was no cameras. They were just sort of one person was filming it and then another person filmed another angle and everyone could see it.
You're forgetting. It's filmed in 2006, but it's set in the far-flung future of roughly about 2015.
But for some reason, they still prefer to watch it on tiny, tiny phones.
Yes, because of the retro tech phase that we established before.
But all the pixels were shit back then, so you wouldn't be able to see a fucking thing on those little screens. It's silly. Anyway,
that's silly.
Essentially, Sean wins the race.
Sean wins the race.
Obviously, so he can stay in Tokyo, and he's christened the new Drift King.
Yeah. And did you know, because in the film it's not immediately clear whether or not Takashi DK, whether or not he survives, because he takes quite a nasty tumble off a mountaintop and seems to crash. But in a deleted scene,
however, he
is seen being carried away by Yakuza thugs and presumably has to leave.
Why
town.
did they cut that out? It's really silly. I don't know why.
Well, I'm presuming it's something to do with that was part of the film's original ending, which, as I'm sure you'll get onto, was later changed.
Okay, right. So by the end of the film, they're all having a great time. He's the DK. Everything's great. And then in a bonus scene at the end of the film, an American driver shows up to challenge Sean, and he only accepts because he finds out that he was a friend of Han. In fact, he says he's family. Now, is this the first mention of family in that context?
Well, they say it as if it's like a hint that it's going to be, spoilers, Vin Diesel. But I don't remember there being such an emphasis on family in the first Fast and Furious movie.
No, there wasn't. No. If they mentioned it, it was because they were actually family. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it was him and his sister. But
it's like he's family. He's my brother. Yeah. Oh, well, that's really deep. No, he actually just is my brother.
But yeah, we'll get on to Vin Diesel's involvement. But yes, Vin Diesel suddenly appears as Dominic Toretto in the car, and then him and Sean go off and have a race. We don't see the race, but that's how the film ends.
Hey, yo, Sean! Hey, check this out, man. This dude over here want to race the new DK. Heard he's been beating everybody around Asia, too.
Not tonight, Twinkie.
Said he knew Han. Said Han was family.
All right. Let's race. Nice ride.
I won it from our friend Han a few years ago.
I didn't know he was into American muscle.
He was when he was rolling with me.
You know this ain't no 10-second race.
I got nothing but time. You ready, kid?
So this is where we catch up with Furious 7, which finally made Tokyo Drift part of the official franchise. Mainly because Vin Diesel, like us, is just a big nerd. And he's
a big Dungeons and Dragons playing nerd. And so having already incorporated characters from Too Fast, Too Furious, with Roman and Tej, he brought them into the franchise in Fast 5. He then in 7 makes... Well, actually, the end of 6 is where we revisit Han's death.
Yes, so what happens is, the whole point of all this weird time stuff is because Han dies in this film, but then Vin Diesel comes back for 4, as does Paul Walker and everyone else. But Vin Diesel's obviously watched Tokyo Drift and gone, shit, Han was a really good character. Let's bring him back. How are we going to do that? Oh, let's just make this a prequel. And it turns out...
Which would have been fine if it was like
one film. Yeah. But they loved Han so much that they did three films, which would technically prequels. And each film had Han going, you know what we should do? What? Let's go to Tokyo. Then they make another.
There's literally, I'm sure one ends with him literally going, I'm going to Tokyo. And then the next one, he's like, I'll get there.
Yeah.
back off, I'll get there.
And then, so it turns out at the end of Fast and Furious 6 in a post-credit scene, and this was very exciting at the time, it turns out Han wasn't accidentally killed by a random driver, but it was actually Deckard Shaw, played by Jason Statham.
And when you're watching, it was very exciting. And when I watched Tokyo Drift, it's interesting. You do see, so when Han's car gets T-boned and explodes, you do see a figure get out of the car that plowed into Han. But it's like a high aerial shot, and you can't see exactly who it is. And only three movies later do we learn that it was Deckard Shaw.
Because you assumed that the car blew up because it was in a crash, but they changed it to Deckard Shaw like pressing a button to make it explode. So he goes for it. So that's why.
Dominic Toretto. You don't know me. You're about to.
So then Dom travels to Tokyo to pick up Han's things in Fast and Furious 7, which includes Letty's necklace that Deckard tosses in the car because he gets it off his brother Owen. And so Dom has a meeting with Sean after the race, which we don't see, but it turns out Dom obviously won. So he's the Drift King, but he's just lost to some random dude. What, does he now is he still the Drift King? I don't know.
Well, don't forget, he became the Drift King in the space of about, maybe everyone in Tokyo is actually really bad. Like they're quite good at drifting, but sort of more general driving maneuvers, emergency stops, parallel parking. Yeah. They're not great at that. Great at this one specific thing. And so Vin Diesel turns up, Dominic Toretto turns up and just shows them all up. Because it can't be that hard to become Drift King, because Boswell did it in the space of about 5 days.
Yeah. Just in case there was a weird jolt there, it made no sense. We were doing this on Zoom, and it just stopped recording and didn't save a big chunk of it. So we're having to start again. We recorded a good 25 minutes, including some really great material. and we've had to start again. So,
but if anything, this will be better because now we've had a rehearsal.
Yeah. So if it sounds like I'm really grumpy all of a sudden, it's because we were having to do this all over again. We wasted lots of time.
But and also, if you listen to this and you think, if you listen to what comes next, you think this is awful.
Yeah. What
we did before was even worse.
Yeah. So
bear that in mind. This is our second attempt.
Anyway, so they did the stupid idea of including the same scene from Tokyo Drift in Fast and Furious 7. So Twinkie goes up to Sean and goes, mate, there's this American guy who wants to race here, even though they look really, really young at this point. And then it cuts to the bit where Boswell's talking to Vin Diesel. They clearly have aged a good 5 to 10 years. How bad was that race that happened? And I know Vin Diesel won. Oh, come on.
Yeah, Boswell was riding high on being the Drift King. He was, so shocked at losing to Dominic Toretto that it aged him a good 10 years.
Who said American muscle can't drift?
Han mentioned he left his enemies in his rear view. He never talked about it much.
Always playing it close to the vest.
We found a couple of things about a crash. Wasn't much left.
Giselle.
Oh, yeah. There's one more thing. I found this. Must have meant something to him. When you find the guy that killed Han, what are you going to do?
Words ain't even been invented yet.
But yeah, Vin Diesel agreed to make a cameo in this film in exchange for Universal's ownership to the rights of the Riddick series and character in lieu of financial payment. So
Han Lu,
in fact.
I will say, that was a joke Tom made the first time.
Thanks for saying that.
Now I've stolen it and made it seem like it was mine, but that was your joke.
He was like, look, I'll do it for free, but I want Riddick. And they're like, yeah, what we're going to do with that franchise? Have it. Do what you want with it. And he made one film with it, is it?
He made Riddick, the film Riddick, and as it turns out, the best thing to come out of that deal was his bonus appearance in Tokyo Drift.
It was, yeah. So they hired loads of drifting specialists to do this film, including, obviously, Rhys Millen and Samuel Hubert. They were brought in to do all the big stunts because.
If I'm looking for drifting specialists, which is apparently a thing. I want Hubert, first of all. He's top of my list. And who was the other guy?
Rhys Millen, obviously.
Millen. Of course, Millen second. But I'm more of a Hubert guy myself.
Yeah. Now, this next bit, when we did it the first time round, it was great. Now I've got to do it again. And I really don't want to do it, but I've got to do it because it was one of the best bits of the episode. So we'll see.
This was one of the best bits. This was one of the best bits.
So did you know, because you've already done this bit, Channing Tatum once auditioned for Tokyo Drift.
What? You're blowing my mind.
Presumably as Sean Boswell. Now, he said this to Jimmy Kimmel in an interview in like 2014 or whatever, but annoyingly, the footage just doesn't appear on YouTube anymore. So I had to improvise and do my own accent. Now, I don't know what Channing Tatum sounds like, so I was just like, there's some American accent, so let's just go with it, okay?
Well, given that the clip doesn't exist, I think the only correct thing to do would be for you to attempt a Channing Tatum impersonation. I imagine that's the way this will go.
Not knowing what he sounds like, so let's go with it. So, Channing Tatum told Jimmy Kimmel, I wanted to go to Tokyo very badly. I wanted to drift in Tokyo. I was like, I've never been to Tokyo. I hear they got really great food. Essentially, the crux was that his audition was so bad that he just stopped halfway through it and walked out the room. He was just like, they didn't even try to stop me. They were like, all right, this is probably a good idea. I stopped in the middle of the audition and thought, I think we're done, right? I blacked it out, so I don't remember specifics, but it was a combination of me just being bad, not remembering the lines, totally freaked out. I was probably sweating a lot. They didn't even try to stop me.
I think the removal of the original interview clip from the internet is the best thing that could have possibly happened for this episode. Because if not, we wouldn't have been treated to that, whatever that was.
You said the first time around he'd morphed, as ever, into James Stewart halfway.
There was a hint of James Stewart. There was a hint of, I can do the draft. Yeah, that was...
Anyway, it was the lowest grossing of the franchise, obviously, but it still made
obviously,
$159 million on an $85 million. It still made $159. It still made $159 million on an $85 million budget.
Keep all this in. This is gold.
So bear in mind, I'm more drunk than normal because we've done.
Yeah, because we've already done it. We've done it. If you were wondering, listeners, how
Sully appeared drunk halfway through.
No, if you were wondering how we're adapting to recording remotely, the answer is badly, really badly. This is a shambles.
So on Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 38% approval rating, which I think is harsh. But I think
that is harsh.
They reviewed it as it was at the time, not what it is now. However, Roger Ebert gave it a good review. He gave it 3 out of 4 stars. He said it takes an established franchise and makes it surprisingly fresh and intriguing, and is more observant than we expect. And now Ebert always knew best.
He's a populist, is Ebert. He loves a bit of Tokyo Drift.
But Rob Cohen, the director of the first film, wasn't very happy with it at all. He goes, if I were to just watch Tokyo Drift, you'd say I never want to see anything related to Fast and Furious again. Very harsh if you ask me. And then there was this line that I thought I saw on Wikipedia. No citations. It was just a line that clearly some fan had just gone in there and done it himself. But
gone rogue.
Is what it reads. Because the film differs from the rest of the franchise in terms of location and cast, this can make some reviewers and fans dislike it, while others, who may not like the over-the-top sequences of the more recent films, actually appreciate its simplicity. When critics rank the movies against each other, it has often appeared on the bottom of the list. However, over time, it has become a cult favourite with some fans and has been placed in with the top 4 by some critic rankings and even at number 1 and 2 positions by others. With the film series becoming more action-dependent and incorporating less realistic storylines, the simplicity of Tokyo Drift has become far more appreciated by critics over time. Now, I agree with that sentiment.
It's correct.
Yeah, it's a bit random. And Tokyo Drift, the D was no capitals, so clearly this isn't, So
citation required.
In general thoughts of Tokyo Drift?
Do I like it? No, I do like it. I think I like it more because of the way it has since been reintegrated into the franchise, which has maybe lent it a little more weight retroactively, right? So if it had been the final film in the series, I don't know if I'd feel so warmly towards it. You know, if it had been the film that had killed the franchise, if it had been the point at which the Fast and Furious franchise had stalled, and a little bit about cars. But given that it is since by Vin Diesel been sort of retroactively made a part of the grander mythology of the Fast and Furious franchise, which does have a mythology and a canon. I think it's good. I think it's a fun little diversion away from the Toretto saga, which I think it holds up.
Yeah, it's just for what it is, a good film and has great moments, decent performances. I think it's underrated. And now that Fast 9 is going to bring back all these characters, including, of course, Han himself, he's coming back somehow. So he's not even dead anymore. After all that, he is coming back.
So in the trailer for Fast 9, it reveals that Han wasn't killed by Deckard Shaw after all, which they went to such lengths. They mangled the entire chronology, right, of the Fast franchise, purely just because the lady loves Sung Kang, purely because Vin Diesel loved Sung Kang. He wanted to keep him around as Han. Fair enough. Yeah. They went to such lengths, iPods and phones that don't fit, and now after all that, they've just gone out. Han was alive anyway, and you know, watching Tokyo Drift back, I'm sorry, there is no way that Han survived that crash. He is he's lying severely injured, trapped in molten metal. The car explodes seconds later. Sean rushes over to the car. It explodes.
Yes.
Am I expected to believe that neither Sean nor Deckard Shaw noticed that someone just grabbed the severely injured Han?
Helen Mirren turns up and rescues him, and then put into the same program that Idris Elba was put in to make him a super computer double-R bastard, and that's what's going to happen. That's my prediction.
I think Charlize Theron teleported him out. That's my genuine pitch for Fast 9.
But anyway, that is about it. Thanks so much for joining us. That is Tokyo Drift done and dusted. A second time for us. First time for you. Hope you enjoyed it. And we'll be back next time with an episode that you're taking control over of.
Yeah, I forgot what it was the first time, but I know very well what it is this time. We don't usually queue up the next episode like this anymore, but given that we're knocking out episodes a little faster than usual, the next episode is going to be all about, and there's a little tangential link to Tokyo Drift because we were talking about Gal Gadot here and there. The next episode is all about Wonder Woman, specifically the vintage Wonder Woman TV series starring Linda Carter.
Yes.
So look forward. I mean, if you've enjoyed our barely intelligible drunken ramblings about Tokyo Drift, then you're bound to enjoy that. So tune in.
So, as ever, take a good old ride over to 2geeks2beers.com where you'll find all 64 of our previous episodes, at least enough to get you through, I reckon, 2 solid days of confinement. And if you'd rather listen on your totally era-appropriate iPod, we're also on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or wherever you get your podcasts, and you'll find us there.
Take a good old ride. And you should also subscribe, rate, and review. It's the right thing to do. We're also on all the social channels. We're doing this flipped to the way we did it last time, by the way.
Yeah.
You can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at 2geekscast.
You can also find clips from episodes old and new on our YouTube channel. Just type in 2 Geeks 2 Beers into YouTube and you'll find us on there. And you can maybe send a friend a little sampler of one of your favourite 2 Geeks moments. Why not?
Why not? We're also on Patreon, where you can sponsor the podcast, helping to fund our recording sessions, our equipment, and all your money will go directly back into making the show, and you'll get special bonus material. If this wasn't enough for you, you can get even more exclusive Patreon-only episodes, outtakes, and depending on how much you donate, even a mini episode or full-length episode that's exclusive to you.
And please also email us, podcast@2geeks2beers.com. How about an underrated sequel in a film series you think deserves more credit? Give us some ideas. Send us whatever you like. That's podcast@2geeks2beers.com.
Not whatever you like. I mean, keep it,
clean,
appropriate.
Yeah,
keep it clean.
But to play us out, I've decided to go for a song which was in the soundtrack to Tokyo Drift, which was also used in the soundtrack to Fast and Furious 7, which was brilliant. So there's a song that plays, it's a really good song when Sean first arrives in Tokyo Drift, and then they bring it back, the same song, when Vin Diesel arrives in Tokyo in Furious 7. And for me at the time, I was like, oh my God, they've really made an effort. They've even brought the song back. That's like proper nerdy shit right there. So we're going to leave you with this. It's called 6 Days by DJ Shadow. Hope you enjoy it, and we're back next time.
See you next time. So
I didn't know.
Bow Wow, Mr. Wow, Twinkie, he during the sequence where Sean Boswell is getting into his first drift race, he gets into a lift with a bevy of lovelies, just winks at the camera, just gives just totally breaks the fourth wall, just totally ruining the credible world that Justin Lin and the production team have worked so hard to build up.
That is all brand new information.
Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.